Sunday, March 16th, it's 2025, it's 5:11 p.m. And for the record, let's just go ahead and get the fake sun, because this is exactly where it remains. Sorry. This is engineer light, not sunlight. This is engineer light, not sunlight. It's appearing on the inside of the apartment. Impossible light above the head as well. And this is also impossible light that's touching the surfaces on the inside. This is the significance of what is not sunlight. The presence of the engineer light touching all over, including touching all over my person, touching all over surfaces on the inside. That's the pattern of the living room window that the engineer light is touching in an impossible manner. And it's also not only impossible based on the duration of time where the sun must be stationary in order to create sunlight, but it's also impossible because it's coming through what is the living room window that has closed blinds and is covered with window coverings, and yet it's still piercing through at a concentrated level, and it's showing you the pattern of the window. That's what's piercing through. So let me just get in alignment with it so you can see what has nothing to do with the fake sun itself. This is demonic. When you're looking at this object itself, this is speaking to the spiritual realm, stalking with every movement that I make with what is a light source, because this light source has nothing to do with the manifestation of this light. That's how you're able to see, by the way, the manifestation of light that's up here that has nothing to do with the position of the fake sun piercing through the crevice of the side of the window. It has nothing to do with that. You're looking at what is demonic as you see it, and the demon possessed and Satan himself never facing and never anticipating scrutiny at a common sense basic level, and also analysis of a scientific level regarding what is paying attention to the level of detail regarding what is absolutely impossible under all circumstances regarding this manifestation of light. It's creating also the pattern of the window in the light. Okay, not only that, you're talking about, you saw the fake sun on video outside of this same front door at 10:29 in the morning, 10:24 when I started that video. We can look at that together to get the precise time where the fake sun is stationary at the same location, which is exactly what I told you, while the entity provided evidence against itself, speaking to its mental illness when it is facing a prosecution in federal court. This video capturing the fake sun at 10:22 in the morning is right over the top of my head, speaking to what defies nature. And by the way, while it's over this same apartment building, it is still in a position to reflect off of the window, okay? The sun that would be in a position to reflect off the window doesn't create the reflection of the window, and also ricochets off the outside of that window, as you see the pattern of the windows when you've seen engineer light outside. This has nothing to do with sunlight, and as you can see it in a manner where it has nothing to do with the crack of the window, it has nothing to do with the fake sun. This is demonic. When you see me go to a position and a crack in a window, and then you'll see what's supposed to be the sun glaring through, it's not. First of all, duration of time, that's not the natural environment. This is the demonic pattern of stalking me with the fake sun, and the demons know, as well as the demonic environment tells you, that they know what I'm doing as I do it, and that is evidenced through the specific environment, and this is magnified in size. The pattern of the window is appearing in that light. This is very demonic. In the same way, the demon that's stalking by residents in Unit 55, she begins the amplified audible activity creation at the same time that I'm capturing the evidence that she is stalking by residents with this impossible light activity. That is also speaking to the shaded structure, okay, where sunlight does not, first of all, appear underneath covered structures and then ricochet to create the shadow of objects that it's touching underneath, while the sun is at the same time outside of my bedroom window in Los Angeles. This is what I captured on video at 4:09 p.m. You know that it's not the sun both in Los Angeles based on the duration of time. You also know that it's not the sun because the sun never left where it is right now. Over the same stalkers, license 8 GEN 638, they're going to prison, him and his mama. All right, they're stalking in the path using the vehicle as a means of light activity. They do the same thing under the fake sun, as I documented on video during the 8 a.m. hour, okay? This is gang stalking by residents, and this is what a population does when they come and make a delivery. They're doing what 8 GEN 638 is doing. When they're coming and flying over in planes and helicopters like the Ontario International Airport did, they're doing what 8 GEN 638 is doing, stalking in the path, stalking while they know I'm in operation of my communication device, which is providing evidence against themselves, because now they've done it to the federal prosecutor, who's putting them in mental wards and in federal prison. And this is particularly the demons that reside in units 33 through 68. Okay, they are in the building that is units 33 through 48. That's the specific building where the fake sun remains all day long. And this is the enduring fake sun that is under no circumstances over me in Los Angeles, contrary to what I documented on video at approximately 4:06 p.m., where the entity is keeping the fake sun not outside of my office like yesterday in 2024, where Los Angeles PD is exhibiting demon possession to the world while I'm prosecuting them for federal group stalking and monitor in concert with a demon-possessed population that engages engages in the egregious criminal offense against American citizens like myself who are subject to what is domestic terrorism and psychological torture, gang stalking with the state. The entity is keeping this light source, and this is engineered light, and those are the realities. The unfortunate reality is that those are sex offenders and predators that remain in the unit, gang stalking by residents, while that fake sun remained over the same. If I'm looking at it outside of this patio glass door, it has not moved from being over the same exact location. This is the evidence of stalking by population amongst the supernatural phenomenon, which is a fake sun that remains over the gang stalkers who are targeting one person. They know exactly who I am. They know exactly what I'm doing, and they're going to prison for the ongoing psychological torture that they then continuously engaged in, while I'm now simultaneously prosecuting them, which is the evidence contrary to the purpose of gang stalking. There is not only is there no illusion of mental illness created by gang stalking me, the federal prosecutor, there is no actual mental illness, and the entity to engage in federal group stalking and monitoring for that malicious purpose, they are going to federal prison and mental asylums for doing so. It's the prosecution of the government as well. This is speaking to what the city of Ontario is engaging in, and all those that are sitting in office and in positions of authority where they're engaging in terrorism as their way of business. This is how they operate in government. This is what they're wasting millions of dollars on. And the evidence is literally the fake sun and the engineered light. And it's also incriminating all the demons that are living and working at Woodside Senior Apartments. And you also know this because while you see this here, this is speaking to the fact that there is absolutely no possible way that at the same time, even on the same day, that the sun would be, contrary to what I documented, remaining over me at any time in Los Angeles. And that's exactly what I captured, however. So this is what you'll see on this day in 2024 at 8:42 a.m. I am residing at what is Alvarado Gardens, which is located in Los Angeles, California, in Los Angeles County, where I'm capturing outside of my living room window is what you see above. You can see the entirety of the object itself over the hillside during this video at 8:42 a.m. And as I remain, this is a Saturday, so I remained off of work on this day. I remained inside of my apartment, and the entity engaged in the pattern of conduct which is recognizable through the environment that defies nature and science, which is incapable of reconciling in federal court, where that's where you would need that. Because no one is going to be able to help the defendants who are going to prison and are going to mental asylums and are being removed from public office and are being removed from the bench. They're being removed from the legal profession. They're being removed from law enforcement. They're being removed from being able to access the public when they're placed in the mental asylums. People like Tracy Banks, high school graduates who think that they can create an illusion regarding your mental illness if they have the state gang stalk you, while she seeks to establish and maintain power of attorney over myself as a licensed attorney. And even as I don't pay merely my legal fees, I maintain that legal skill set in order to prosecute her and every other demon-possessed gang stalker, i.e. malicious state actor targeting me, which is proven beyond a reasonable doubt. That's the legal standard, okay? The entity is engaging in what is a fake sun over me inside of the same apartment at the end of the day. So let's count the hours together from 8:42 as a matter of video documentation, because my video documentation, the totality of facts, shows that I've captured the sunrise during the 6 a.m. hour outside of my same living room window in Los Angeles. But we can just go off of what I documented today in 2024, because all the evidence is serving to prosecute inevitably what are psychopaths and sex offenders who are all going to prison and mental asylums. One of those mental health patients is currently pacing above in unit number 55. She's pacing like the psychopath that she is, and she's going to be treated for her mental health condition. She has made her mental health condition public knowledge, and the federal government is going to treat that national security threat and put it in a mental asylum where it belongs. And every other co-defendant is gang stalking with her, while amplified noise is letting me know what this demon-possessed gang stalker is doing, which also is occurring in that phenomenon of what is a specific environment and not a natural environment, where the sun could never be over Woodside Senior Apartments at any time of the day, when during the same time of year, even at the same time, the natural environment would dictate that the sun would be in a location where someone in Los Angeles at Alvarado Gardens would view it, observe it outside of where they're residing. And if that's the case, that's speaking to also what is the supernatural environment. There's some malice. There is some probable cause for the federal government to investigate, in other words. There is no basis for diagnosing any mental illness, in other words. There is no hallucination or imagination that is engaged in when the entity is speaking to what is the condition of the one who would allege that the strangers are stalking them. This is where the government is engaging in this pattern of conduct in a specific environment that defies the operation of nature. And as you document, their mental illness becomes more and more obvious because they engage in more stalking conduct. They engage in more psychological torture tactics,
like conspicuous stalking right in your face. That is legally analyzed as impunity. And such psychopaths who are inclined to engage in threatening and stalking and doing so while it is being enforced, their rights are being enforced, like you would traditional stalking, and you go to the superior court and you seek a court order to stop, to demand that the stalker stop, and the stalker continues, the superior court, that judge would be inclined to provide what is a restraining order, to order that stalker be placed under what is some sort of program whereby they can get mental assistance, because they clearly have psychological issues. They clearly have some sort of mental issue, some mental health concern. This is exactly what you're witnessing while the entity is gang stalking me while I'm in the process of documenting them. And they are failing. They have utterly failed at what is creating the illusion, which is the malicious purpose of federal group stalking and monitoring, that target individual, who is myself, who is advocating on behalf of the ordinary target individual lacking the evidence to prove the crime of federal group stalking and monitoring, that person suffers from some sort of mental illness. It is to the contrary, showing and proving the mental illness of the demon-possessed, the psychopaths who target you conspicuously in that specific environment, and they're engaging in the psychotic conduct of stalking you by residence, like they live there to keep you under surveillance. They travel there to engage in that ceaseless surveillance. They are acting in concert with a whole government program that is centered on keeping you under surveillance. You're going to prison and mental asylums for that. This is what was documented while that fake sun remained over my apartment located at 1806 North Alvarado Street in Los Angeles, California. And I want you to remember what the entity is doing right now, which is what I'm documenting right now. This demon right here, as you see me reference the audible activity. Let me go ahead and get in an image, because she's going to a mental asylum, and so are all the other co-defendants. This is what the demon is doing while she's monitoring with the state my communication device at 4:45 p.m. where the fake sun is over me and engineered light surrounds me. Knowledge of what I'm doing while light manifests in the shade out of nowhere, not coming from the sun, not coming from some ricocheting light. It's coming from nowhere, from the shade. This is a covered patio outside. That's all shade. That's the light over here. That's light. That's distinct from being in the shade, and you've got light manifesting in the dark room. That belongs to the defendant who's going to a mental asylum, gang stalking with her co-defendant residing in Unit 55, and all the other co-defendants that were pacing in plain view under the fake sun at 10 o'clock in the morning, 10 o'clock, 10 a.m., and it did not go anywhere. We're going somewhere with this, because the entity that is engaging in pattern of conduct, doing so very obviously, very foolishly at 10:22 in the morning for the duration of this video. This is where the fake sun is at 10 o'clock in the morning. There is no sun pursuant to the natural environment that could possibly be before this video that I captured today at 8:42 a.m. on this same day in 2024 in the natural environment that's going to be outside in a position in alignment to me, creating sunlight inside of my apartment through my closed blinds on my living room floor, through my hallway, like I documented on video on this day, and also remaining over my same apartment, the same exact location, and through what is the opposite side of the same apartment, as though the sun is remaining stationary over one apartment building, is specifically visible outside of my window, and taking, let's count the hours together from 8 to 4 p.m. 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 1, 2, 3. That's after 4. Yeah, after 4 p.m. So you're talking about over 7 hours of what is the stationary, idle presence of the fake sun. Everybody at Alvarado Gardens, just like everybody in units 33 through 64, they're all going to prison. And they provided evidence to the federal government substantiating that. While you have the evidence of what is defying nature from 10:22 a.m., where on this day at 8:24 a.m., the fake sun is in my living room window in alignment to me in Los Angeles at 1806 North Alvarado Street, apartment number 6, on the 3rd floor, facing the hillside. Inside of apartment number 51, standing at Tracy Banks's front door, facing south at 10:22 a.m. The entity is keeping a fake sun over me, over specifically units that I'm facing, units 33 through 48. This is presenting the sort of evidence such that I guess the sun engaged in sort of disappearing from remaining over my apartment all day long. And then it's just popping after 8:24, because it has to have a dual presence remaining over me at the same time all day. And then also being in a position where I'm also capturing over Tracy Banks's apartment as I open up her front door. It's the same demonic and impossible occurrence with regard to the light that's somehow ricocheting and appearing out of nowhere through windows and blinds that are closed, on ceilings buildings that are not in any position to be touched by any sort of sunlight, and under what is the enduring light source itself. This is the pattern of conduct that the Ontario International Airport engaged in, gang stalking in this video above at 10:22 to 11:03 a.m. That's the same airport that's going to be shut down. It is a national security threat. It has been documented engaged in domestic terrorism and psychological torture for a series of years. It is throughout the body of evidence from 2018 to 2025, literally in this video that's captured today. These are the foolish defendants who present themselves for public exposure. That is embarrassment on top of a federal prosecution. Their demon possession is put on full display. No demon-possessed people should be flying commercial planes, and the ongoing gang stalking pattern of conduct that the Ontario International Airport practices is evidence of that. These are the same ones that derive pleasure out of engaging in psychological torture. What do you think they're doing to people that are flying on their planes and they are crashing into buildings and crashing into each other in the sky space? Those are not accidents. That same personality defect, that same mental illness that inspires them to engage in psychological torture and gang stalking and wasting millions of dollars in doing so, those are the same demon-possessed people that crash planes and including killing themselves in doing so. This is why the Ontario International Airport is being shut down, amongst other reasons. They are gang stalking me upon multiple kidnappings by this same community, including on June 16, 2022. They're gang stalking under the fake sun over the Ovid Family Community Library, and contrary to this documentation, speaking to same time of year analysis, the exact same time at 10:29 a.m., the fake sun is not over Ovid Family Community Library at 215 EC Street. It's also not over me while I am living and remaining in Los Angeles on the same day when on, March 16, 2024, while from 8:42 a.m. to 4:06 p.m., 8:42 a.m. to 4:06 p.m. There's no sun that could possibly be over the Ovid Family Community Library if you just want to go ahead and analyze other evidence about the pattern of conduct where this entity engaged in repeated acts of kidnapping amongst the same demon-possessed, mentally ill population who are well practiced in what is terrorizing American citizens. And it is evidenced through an environment that defies nature. You do not have one sun that will remain for the duration of the day over one apartment, contrary to what I documented on this day in 2024 when I was residing in a different county in an entirely different region in Los Angeles. The pattern of conduct, however, is capturing the same exact pattern amongst what is a scientific phenomenon. So this scientific phenomenon is a pattern, i.e. a pattern of conduct. And everything happening amongst that, in that environment is that which is criminal, designed to psychologically torture the ordinary target individual. And they have targeted me with their pattern of conduct in order to embody a wealth of evidence in order to prosecute them and also show how the demon-possessed behave very highly maliciously when you are looking at the entity that is engaging in it. And remember what the entity did. The city of Ontario was having a field day flying over my head in planes, using commercial airplanes, gang stalking with the population, where the fake sun was in this exact same position in the course of this video during the 10 a.m. hour. This is exactly where the fake sun was over the same parking lot, where it is at 4:48 p.m. This is the legal significance of the demon in unit number 55. Gang stalking by residents at this property, where the fake sun is from this point of the building where you see me pointing here to this end of the building, keeping a fake sun over me. That's the pattern of conduct. And that's the prosecution of AVANATH Capital Management, a corrupt third-party company, just like speaker companies, where I am subject to the same pattern of conduct. And the entity kept the fake sun over my apartment in alignment, perfect alignment with my person inside of my apartment, as I capture on video from 8:42 a.m. and outside of my bedroom window, what is at 4:06 p.m. That's what you see here. This is my bedroom window. That's the light source. And you're talking about hours later, earlier in the morning, that's the light source. And that is deliberately over and specifically and very unique, not sharing any sort of sky space where the demons in units 33 through 64 would have any sort of sunlight inside of this apartment or outside covering any of the apartments. It's certainly not going to create sunlight in the shade or on the ceiling inside of Tracy Banks's apartment, where psychopaths are pacing like lapdogs, and that's why they're going to a mental asylum. The entity's mental illness is put on full display in that specific environment where they are maliciously acting with the state that uses deliberately crafted legislation that was designed to result in what is kidnapping and criminally defaming American citizens who suffer no mental illness whatsoever. You're also not a stranger to them. In that specific environment, they are on assignment to target you. That's what AVANATH Capital Management is engaging in, and they're going to compensate me for gang stalking as an occupant at its property that is a facilitating venue. And this is exactly what is underway as I documented it, remaining at what is Alvarado Gardens, where as my employer and the landlord, Lord. I am subject to federal group stalking and monitoring. Very foolish with regard to targeting me. Very, very foolish, but it is providence with regard to your information and the legislation that shall change from the prosecution of the state of California and my exposing the state of California, engaging in federal group stalking and monitoring and targeting American citizens and misusing and abusing terms that are unconstitutional when they are applied to result in interfering with your liberty rights and interfering with your property rights, where you have been targeted in order to falsely depict your character of being mentally ill. And to the contrary, justice provides, and the evidence is proving actually the entity that is targeting you is severely mentally ill, severely. And I'm going to be even more precise and specific. These are the demon possessed. This is the pattern of conduct by the demon possessed. That's why they're pacing in helicopters. That's why they're pacing right in front of your face, because you have them walking under the fake sun and engineered light. It's Satan that's using all of their bodies, and they're pacing all around together. They're just not holding hands in a circle. That's why you're making a separation amongst individuals who are one entity. These are the demon possessed who are pacing together. And while they're pacing under the fake sun, everybody residing under the fake sun is going to federal prison. And that's the same fate. Everybody under this fake sun is going to federal prison. All right. And that includes AVANATH Capital Management's employees. They're going to federal prison. That includes Linda Reyes. That includes the demons who provide a wealth of evidence against themselves, gang stalking by residents in Unit 41, and all of his co-occupants. They're going to prison. All right. And the entity is doing so while they are monitoring evidence. This is the criminal interference with an ongoing federal case. While the entity is gang stalking in Los Angeles, like I documented, this is the environment where Los Angeles Police Department is indeed gang stalking, like I captured on video on this day in 2024. So let's just go ahead and look at that really quickly. Forget that. Here you go. Let's keep that there. Let's go ahead and look at that really quickly. This is where the entity is indeed gang stalking me. That's terrorism and psychological torture by the entity that uses the resources of the city pursuant to a statewide system where they are targeting me by gang stalking, the absolute highest threat posed by gang stalking police officers using their helicopters to gang stalk me while I'm inside of my private space. And I maintain that constitutional right. And I am the only one whose constitutional rights and privacy rights and freedom of speech are maintained intact, because the rest of the entity is exploiting the Constitution while they are targeting with the state and in the shoes of the state. Okay, so let's look at LAPD gang stalking. The third party that resides here is going to a mental asylum, is entering for purposes of the P.O.C. as well. So never mind that distraction.
I'm trying to get out of here anyway.
All right, this is LAPD at what is 7:09 p.m. after I documented the fake sun remaining over me from the beginning until the end of the day. This is where the government, just like it is in Ontario, is engaged in the pattern of conduct.
Hi, Erica.
This is LAPD. They're engaged in ongoing ceaseless group stalking, vibrating my apartment and amplifying the sound of helicopter activity, repeatedly pacing around. And that flashing light is what is light activity while they are in relevant position and amplifying helicopter activity. This is what I'm referencing in my video that I captured at 4:06 p.m. This is what I was referencing when the entity is engaging in, and this is the entity, the demon possessed, the corrupt law enforcement agency, LAPD. This is both criminal facilitation of federal group stalking and monitoring, and it's also their direct engagement in federal group stalking and monitoring. And they are repeatedly engaging in flying over my apartment, pacing around, amplifying. That is engaging in what is harassment. That's intimidation by the entity that's monitoring me. That's an ongoing threat posed by the entity that's monitoring me. And they're doing so with real-time knowledge of what I both review on my phone and what I'm uploading onto my Google Drive. And so as I uploaded the video that I gathered, that I created at 4:06 p.m., that's the timestamp, that's the name of that video. The entity is engaged in what is monitoring, that is trying to stop my ability to upload it to the internet. So while it's uploading, it'll just stop and I have to re-upload it again. They are engaging in group stalking via helicopter and doing that after they engage in what is amplifying helicopter. Okay, so currently what is going on is the use of a communication device, pacing and engineered light that you already know under the fake sun that is remaining in alignment to the same defendant's apartment while the demon in Unit 55 is pacing. Okay, this is impunity, and these are the ones, the mental health patients who are going to federal prison and mental asylums. helicopter activity. I check on the upload and it stops. This is ongoing documentation of the people of the state. This is speaking to that ongoing obsession. By the way, the entity is, again, after every video that I'm documenting, their group stalking by helicopter, I'm documenting the fact that they're engaged in this ongoing obsessive endeavor. They are aware of that and they are continuously engaging in it. That's the purpose of capturing this video. And this is your ability to see it. But like I said, the entity is engaged in ceaseless. This is the demon-possessed law enforcement agency, the LAPD. In relevant position, directed light remains at 24/7. The entity is maintaining a relevant position via the people as well. And they are engaged in that ongoing pattern of conduct with real-time knowledge of the documentation. They are right now amplifying helicopter activity, and this is, again, going against the people of the state. This is demonic activity. This is also criminal facilitation. This is exactly what the Ontario Police Department would engage in on a nightly basis, and the engineered light in the specific environment where there is no sun that would be present, so that was the specific environment, and the LAPD are in the specific environment, which remains day and night, and this is the demonic behavior of pacing. They are doing like this, going back.
That's exactly what the defendant inside of this apartment is doing, as opposed to amplification of the lapdog in Unit 55. The demon is using a communication device inside of this unit, the same one where you saw on video the engineered light on her hallway living room, in the living room, on the hallway door, at the elevated at the elevated position on the hallway door on the inside of the depths of the apartment. Currently has engineered light on her ceiling, on her living room wall, in the same position it was in the video at 10:22 in the morning. The engineered light that's coating her patio glass door, and the fake sun that is, again, at 10, 11, 12, 1, 2, 3, 4, 7 hours later is still in perfect alignment with me, just like the pattern of conduct dictates, which was underway on this day in 2024. This is a psychopath that rushed back in order to pace around inside. This is a mental health patient. She's going to a mental asylum, and the demons that are on her communication device that she is routinely gang stalking with, they're going to be prosecuted as well. Okay, they are a means of audible activity, and these are the demon-possessed psychopaths, and she calls them buddies and friends, and they're gang stalking with her, and in federal court they're going to be testifying against each other. But this is monitoring evidence in real time, just like LAPD was doing, monitoring my evidence in real time and pacing in helicopter.
Going back and forth by helicopter. And this is while they are monitoring. Again, they are aware of the fact that I'm capturing video of them. This is going against the prosecution of the people of the state. This is evidence that will be used against the people of the state when they are in federal court and they are faced with the evidence of their engaging in criminal monitoring and group stalking. Their relevant position, the amplification, the light activity is criminal facilitation. The people of the state are monitoring with the LAPD. This is clearly going against the LAPD, but remember that this is documentation of the entity, and that's the people of the state as well. I also want to document the people of the state are engaged in amplification while I'm inside of my apartment. So in addition to the LAPD amplifying helicopter activity with simultaneity to what I'm doing on my phone and monitoring what I'm uploading onto the internet, the entity is amplifying the sound of third-party group stalkers walking in their apartment. That's a demon that is in relevant position, and that is the amplification that's occurring with simultaneity. Again, that's the people of the state engaging in the demonic behavior. This is ongoing terrorism in the same way that you're looking at the impossible light activity that's inside of my apartment. These demons that are flying helicopters and these demons that are in relevant position living all around are monitoring together, engaging in what is harassment by demons who surround me together. All of this is documentation of evidence that's going to be used against the people of the state. And literally, when they are faced with a federal prosecution in court, when they're faced with losing their section, and this is just an example because I documented the people of the state that are in a whole other county and a whole other city. But when the people of the state are faced with their own criminal case in federal court and losing custody of their children, for example, and the crimes that have been documented against them, this is evidence that's going against them. This is speaking to malice. It is directly relevant to what they participated in because they're monitoring me right now.
This is exactly the same exact pattern of conduct, in other words, that is underway in Ontario amongst the fake sun that remained from 8:42 a.m. to 4:06 p.m. like you see, and everything that I'm speaking to regarding the behavioral pattern amongst that scientific phenomenon regarding that environment that defies nature. That's the environment where the entity is engaging in what is the criminal interference with quiet enjoyment. That's what LAPD is doing, gang stalking, and it's vibrating the apartment. While I'm living on the third floor at this apartment where the fake sun was both rising and setting in alignment to my apartment, which is exactly what is the pattern of conduct amongst all the mental health patients who are stalking with amplified noise, speaking to their mental illness, including right now. At what is 5:40 p.m., the defendant's in the apartment, Tracy Banks. She's going to a mental asylum. And that's her punishment. That's not because she doesn't belong in prison. That's because she's so mentally sick. She's going to face the rest of her life in a mental asylum based on the evidence that speaks to her very severely mentally unstable state. It's not less punitive than federal prison. So let's make that distinction first. But I want to be clear. The entity is she's right here in the apartment while the amplified booming is being heard while I'm speaking to the truth about what they're doing. You already know that the fake sun remained over the same apartment building all day long. This is what they were doing this morning while they are the fools that put themselves on the video. They did that to themselves, including the state flew over my head, just like LAPD did, flying over my apartment. Those are demons that are pacing. And those demons are very severely mentally sick. They engage in more criminal activity, which is legally analyzed as efforts at psychological torture when the apartment is filled with amplified booming. Why? Because I'm documenting your criminal conduct and you're doing it to the federal prosecutor who's presenting it in court to prosecute you. Taking your kids, taking your freedom, taking your rights to any other ability to ever have the government pay your rent. It's never going to happen again. This is the demon that's pacing around using a communication device in the apartment, monitoring while her gang stalking neighbors are aiding in the criminal interference with quiet enjoyment. This is exactly what LAPD and the people of the state in Los Angeles did under what is a fake sun that both rose and set in alignment to my apartment, in alignment to me, which is the defiance of nature and science itself. NASA cannot reconcile it. And there will be no expert in federal court that's going to help them with regard to some sort of target individual that's hallucinating and making up information. That's not going to happen. They're all going to prison, like I stated, and they're all going to mental asylums. All right? This is the P.O.C.
Impunity, but they are also engaging in with the demonic behavioral pattern, which is occurring while I'm both in operation of my communication device and while I engage in anything new. Particularly the helicopter activity was when I am documenting very damning evidence. When I expound upon, again, for the federal policy that I advocate, when I expound upon their demon possession and the environment and their behavior, like the video that I captured at 4:06 p.m. today, the entity engages in what is communicating a threat and aggression and more of this pacing with the helicopter as I try to upload that documentation. So I want to make sure that I specifically document that, and you just literally witnessed them flying directly over my apartment twice in a row. And that's, again, I've already established my credibility, and when I'm stating that they're engaged in obsessive group stalking, that's exactly what they're doing, and they're doing it with the people. And this is documentation against all, and I mean all of them. The people of the state that live in relevant position, all in relevant position, they're monitoring right now. There's sex offenders that are monitoring me inside of my private space right now. They're all engaged in what is not only what I'm doing on my communication device, but at the moment when I'm pulling my panties down, these demon-possessed sex-offending group stalkers are aware of that as well. And they are engaged in what is a show of malice and impunity with that law enforcement agency that is repeatedly threatening my life by stalking and monitoring via helicopter. It is currently 7:25 p.m. This is P.O.C.
All right, the entity is engaging in the pattern of conduct and ongoing impunity with regard to the prosecution of the Los Angeles Police Department, the removal from office of Karen Bates for engaging in federal group stalking and monitoring as a incompetent, and what is also she's engaged in federal group stalking and monitoring. She's a part of the same community, and that pattern of conduct is statewide, and I just so happen to document it for a prolonged period in the city of Los Angeles, in Los Angeles County, by the government that is the Los Angeles Police Department. You will not remain as a gang stalking mayor. This is the same legal analysis for the city of Ontario, for San Bernardino County, who have engaged in repeated acts of kidnapping in an effort to obstruct justice and criminally defame the character of the one who was prosecuting them. This pattern of conduct doesn't work against the one who was here to prosecute. Okay, the entity is doing so in real time. So I want to be clear, amplified audible activity at 5:42 p.m. and again right now at 5:44 p.m. While the defendant herself, this is the mental health patient Tracy Banks, who sought to exercise authority secretly over my life with the state, while gang stalking me at the same time, seeking to have something as unlawful as a power of attorney, which the entity still has never admitted. I'm exposing the criminal conduct of the entity that is simultaneously engaged in the criminal act of federal group stalking and monitoring, an ongoing unabated program of psychological torture and furtherance of committing murder and kidnapping by criminal defamation. The entity is doing so while criminally interfering with quiet enjoyment. This is the significance of that criminal system while I am documenting it. And this is where the entity, the demon in unit number 55, she is gang stalking with the co-defendant inside of the unit, who was pacing around amongst impossible light activity that's appearing concentrated. It was setting in alignment to me in Los Angeles on this day. And you also know that the sunset documented on video for you to see on February 28, 2025, outside of the same apartment where you saw the video at 10:22 in the morning today. That's speaking to the specific environment, not the natural environment, where the engineer light remains day and night. On a cloudy day, on a sunny day, this engineer light remains, and this is where the demon Tracy Banks is engaged in federal stalking using her device, and the third party on her device is also gang stalking. This is where the fake sun remains. If there is no provision in the natural environment that the sun would be at this time of year, at this time, outside of my bedroom window. But that's what I documented on this day, and I also documented the LAPD gang stalking, which the city of Ontario is gang stalking as well. All right, this is impunity throughout the course of this documentation. The amplified audible noise, the amplified booming is within the pattern of conduct of stalking with audible activity under an enduring light source. This is terrorism as I documented at this point in the day. This is the direct evidence of criminal surveillance that's underway at not a private residence. Nobody has any constitutional rights. They are all engaging in state action, and they're doing so with regard to psychological torture and what is the private space of the American citizen that has a right to be free from that. There is no constitutional basis of authority for the government to engage in it either. And LAPD and Ontario PD's gang stalking is speaking to state action. It's not private activity. None of it is constitutionally protected. None of it is constitutionally authorized either. And it's the malicious pattern of conduct that the government practices in reliance on that corrupt population, keeping you under surveillance, gang stalking by residents, in other words. All right, this is where the entity is stalking right now. Amplified audible activity is within the elements of monitoring. It's audible activity. It's also pursuant to, while I'm documenting, the entity engages in psychological torture with the intent to obstruct justice. The entity does more of it. This is all supposed to serve what is the creation of an illusion of the target individual. This is not working. I'm speaking to the criminal tactics of the entity who are going to federal prison and mental asylums. I want to be clear. It is 5:47 p.m. The defendants who are on Tracy Banks's communication device, this is very easily aware if the federal government is watching. You're going to prosecute using her based on her device as well. All right. The entity is engaged in the pattern of conduct, and it is March 16, 2025 at 5:47 p.m. when you're looking at that fake sun that is still at the same location, and then you're juxtaposing it with what speaker companies Incorporated engaged in, which is the same entity, the people of the state, and AVANATH Capital Management, who was going to be civilly and criminally prosecuted while it is engaged in what is the ongoing criminal interference with quiet enjoyment, which is pursuant to the specific environment where criminal surveillance of a demonic, satanic, that is a psychologically harmful manner. Okay, this is designed to create what is the loss of life and loss of reputation of that target individual. AVANATH is going to be prosecuted. This is Gerald J. Carter. This is a corrupt CEO, a corrupt company owner who is also engaged in federal stalking, and he is going to be prosecuted. This company is going to be prosecuted for what its demon-possessed residents are engaging in. Now, this is understanding the commercial means that are now competing with the demon-possessed gang stalkers, and they will have competing interests in federal court. The evidence that I'm presenting is going to civilly prosecute AVANATH Capital Management in civil court for the impunity with which they sought to continuously psychologically harm me while I was prosecuting them, and the entity continued to target me even while their criminal conduct is fully exposed, and there is no reasonable or actual question about what the entity sought to engage in, the purpose for it, the way it engages in it, and the ways in which it continued to when it was exposed. And they had an opportunity before they were raided, before they were arrested, before they were prosecuted in court, before they were sued in civil court, to cease to engage in it, and they did not. It is currently 5:49 p.m. I want you to see the face of the demon that is going to a mental asylum. She is not the natural explanation regarding the ongoing amplified noise, but this third party that is remaining inside of units, all of the units in 33 through 64 are going to prison. It's her job by residents to maintain presence. She paces around above me in the living room, remaining directly above the couch. She never is sleeping. If I'm up at 3:30 in the morning and I make a subtle move, this demon is in position directly above me, and the amplified noise that is interfering with quiet enjoyment is the direct evidence of it. I don't have to make it up. The demons are loud enough necessarily in order to stalk with amplified noise, which AVANATH Capital Management is going to be prosecuted for as well. This demon is going to a mental asylum. This one here, she's gang stalking with the entire neighborhood, and this one is going to a mental asylum as well for gang stalking by residents with the so-called hitman. Okay, that is again license 9HUZ740, and this is license 5WUB715. And all of the demons that are remaining in the units that surround units 33 through 48, that is this building and this building, they're all going to federal prison and they're going to mental asylums. This is the impunity and malice that I continuously document throughout the prosecution of the state of California. What you saw today is the entity keeping the fake sun as a matter of evidence. This is a less than 600 square foot apartment, and from the front door to what is the patio glass door, the impossible, as though the sun that is not remaining over one street, one building for the duration of the day, but is actually a gaseous ball of fire that's engaged in constant movement, not negligible incremental movement from one part of the building to the opposite side of the same building for one day, which is what I just documented again on yet another day, where the entity is engaging in what is psychological torture by stalking you with ongoing disruptive and disconcerting noise, which is designed to psychologically harm you. You're going to federal prison for that. They do that to commit murder. They do that in my case to steal property. They're not doing either, and they're all going to federal prison and mental asylums. And a lot of them engaged in gang stalking on video for your eyes to see. It is currently 5:51 p.m. Again, it is March 16, 2025. This is P.O.C.